Coming up on the Social Hour, Facebook's new App Center. What does it mean? Unroll Me for email subscriptions and Open Sky is Pinterest for purchases. All that in Airtime. It's the new chat roulette on the Social Hour.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is the Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 65, recorded Friday, June 8th, 2012. This episode of the Social Hour is brought to you by Audible. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/social hour. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Social Hour. We're on episode 65, and from Petaluma, California, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Amber. How are you?
I am doing well. It is a beautiful day here in Toronto, and just busy, keeping busy, plugging away, and looking forward to going on holiday in a few weeks. And I know you're also going to be away, so that's going to be fun.
And we didn't even plan this. The two of us just decided to get out of town, I guess, around the same time. And when I brought it up to you, you were like, actually, that's perfect, because I was planning on not being around either. And now I don't have to work from vacation.
Yeah, it's perfect. But I think I'm going home to visit family, which is fantastic. It's always fun. However, it sounds like your trip is going to be that much more exciting, being in the south of France and touring around.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've been practicing my French. I'm really bad, and I know that I will be laughed at. But I have been enjoying the research practices of figuring out all of the things I want to order and how to say really nice things to strangers.
Are you using any apps, Sarah?
While I'm traveling? Yeah, well, I'll have my iPad. My iPad is indispensable when I'm traveling. And in fact, it's possible that I will travel only with my iPad. For vacation, I really don't need my laptop at all, clearly. But I will be doing some work at Le Web, which is a conference that's happening in London, sort of at the beginning of these 3 weeks that I'm going to be out of town. And I will actually be Skyping into TNT from London the mid-June, that week in June, the first week that I'm gone. So I don't think I can actually get away with just my iPad. Not quite there yet as far as working on the road, but pretty close. As far as, just maps, especially stuff that I can download offline. Leo and I talked about that on a recent iPad today. It's just so nice to have that, before you go out on the for the day, in an unfamiliar place, to just have all this information at your fingertips, and it's a lot of fun.
Even the Google Translate app, I just did that on my show. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but that's a great app just to translate on the fly and be able to get quick phrases from English to French, and it's a goodie.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you're in an area where it's like, it's not so much that you're trying to be polite by speaking the language, although I always think that that's really important. I know that if someone walked in the studio right now and tried to get me to speak a language I didn't speak, I'd be like, where do you think you are? You gotta speak English to me, And I feel like people will feel that way when I go somewhere that, the English is not the native tongue. But also because I think, at least if all goes well, we're gonna kind of try to get lost in the wilderness a little bit, and people won't even speak English. I mean, it's like, it's not so much that there's a polite aspect to it, it's just that we're going to have to get by. And I know my French isn't that good, so I think I will be relying on Google Translate more often than not. But I look forward to that. It's fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Very fun.
So, Facebook App Center. So this is sort of the big story. I feel like, Amber, sometimes our show becomes a little bit of the Facebook hour because it's just such a big network, and they will not stop the news. It's impossible to ignore Facebook, and we end up talking about them so much because they continue to be in the news. There was some rumors a couple weeks back that Facebook was going to enter the app market, but not as in a competing marketplace with Apple's App Store and the Google Play Store, which is, of course, for Android users, which you use, but more of a place to point to app stores because Facebook just drives so much traffic on the internet in general. And as of, well, I don't want to say yesterday because we're actually shooting the show a bit in advance. As of June 7th, they have announced it on their Facebook blog, newsroom.facebook.com, talking a little bit more about what the goal of the App Center is. Now, as far as I can tell, Amber, it's really just pointing to apps that many that we may have heard of already, Nike Plus, for example, Pinterest, Bejeweled, stuff that you may have heard of. But when you decide to download the app, it's not as if you download it within the Facebook marketplace at all. You might get bumped over to the iOS store, for example, or a different app store. It's an interesting tactic because, as far as I can tell, it's Facebook saying, listen, we know that this is what people want. We know that we're driving a lot of traffic and we want to be a place people will come to get the latest and greatest, even if it's not something that we're hosting natively or building ourselves.
Yeah, I felt when I actually went in and looked around it a little bit and kind of dug around, I feel like it's a little lackluster. I don't know if it's just me. I mean, I think it makes sense perhaps for Facebook to do something like this. But the whole experience, once I got there, I thought, am I ever going to use this? And my initial reaction was no. I don't know if other people feel the same way. I suppose the only thing that was kind of interesting is the built-in feature based on it pulling in your social graph that you can find out what other friends are using certain applications. So I can find out Pinterest, for example, like Natalie Del Conte is using Pinterest and other people within my network. So maybe that's interesting as a recommendation for something that I may want to try out. Other than that, it's a pretty simple feature. You know, there was a lot of excitement, I think, around it from Facebook's stance, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a massive success for them.
Yeah, I will be interested to see in a few months what kind of traffic the App Center does drive. I know that apps that are featured in Facebook's App Center do need to use a Facebook login, a Facebook Connect type of system so that it does encourage people to use Facebook to authenticate themselves in apps, which then, of course, feeds a lot of data back into Facebook. So it's not as if all is lost. It's not just sort of some sort of a goodwill experiment on Facebook's part. They're definitely getting information out of people that they want. But it also is such a departure from the Facebook of, gosh, even last year that was all very HTML5. You know, native apps were not Facebook's focus. The idea was to build a really solid HTML5 experience, and then it didn't really matter what kind of platform you were accessing Facebook on. And this is clearly not that. It's almost like Facebook saying, well, maybe the world isn't ready for that. We've got to bow down a little bit to these app stores that are wildly popular, and at least just try to get people to equate Facebook with something like Fruit Ninja. I mean, I've never thought about Facebook and Fruit Ninja before, but hey, you know, this is the place that you would start.
Yeah, and I think my first reaction, I think, is kind of negative, maybe because of the design of the App Center. It feels like it's not really laid out all that well. I mean, I know they have the different categories in the sections on the left-hand side. Of course, that makes perfect sense. But the main page itself, when you go into something like right now you're in news, or if you go into lifestyle apps and it has this long scrolling list of the applications, it just feels like it's kind of a clunky design when you think about this compared to something Apple has done, for example. And they've kind of reduced the size of the main app icons, and they make more use of the horizontal real estate. It just seems like the design is kind of it's not that as inviting.
Well, I feel that way about Facebook's design in general. I mean,
yeah, maybe doesn't it seem old and dated? It just has this feeling. I don't know.
I know what you mean. I think it is a little bit more visual than the rest of Facebook, which is not saying much. I mean, Facebook is. I don't think either of us have ever said, wow, look at that design of Facebook. That is pretty cutting edge. That is pretty visual. I'm really impressed. It's more of a functional type of a thing. But I agree with you. If they're going to be a major player in an app store and expect people to go to Facebook first, they're going to have to figure out their categories a little bit better, because we're not just going to be scrolling through a bunch of news apps trying to figure out what the best one is. So that is Facebook App Center, which we'll obviously be following more closely and talk about in future episodes, I am sure. Also in the news is the idea that Facebook, now that they're public and their stock price has been the subject of much debate and controversy, and whether the company was overvalued, and you've probably seen it all by now. But the main question, whether their stock price is doing great or terrible, is can Facebook keep up revenue growth going forward? That's the idea. That's why people supposedly are buying pieces of the company, right? Because it's going to be a great investment. And it sounds like from all sides, what Facebook has to do is figure out how to monetize all of us who are logging in via mobile. Now, Amber, I don't know about you, but I still feel that I log into Facebook mostly in a tab on my browser. I sometimes access it via mobile if maybe I get a notification that somebody's tagged me in a photo. And I'm like, oh gosh, is this going to be a good photo? That sort of thing. Or maybe somebody sends me a Facebook message. Perhaps I need to pull up the address to an event because I've forgotten. But for the most part, my Facebook experience happens on my browser, on my PC. What about you?
I actually used to be like that, but I find that I more often these days will access Facebook via an app, whether I'm on an Android phone or an iPhone. And if I'm kind of on the go running around, it's a great way to be able to access. And I know there was a stat not that long ago, and I think this was when Facebook was closer to 750 million users, that 250 million of those users were actually accessing Facebook via a mobile app. So I'm just imagining that number continues to grow. However, I wouldn't say that I spend much time in the mobile app. It's more of a kind of just checking in to see what someone has posted or if I want to post something, but I don't spend much time in the mobile app, whereas in the web version of Facebook, that's where I tend to spend more time kind of digging around, looking at what other people are doing, not so much on the mobile front.
I agree. And that is worrisome, I think, to anybody who says, well, as people continue to access Facebook via mobile, we have to figure out how to sell things to them, because that's not okay. When I access Facebook via mobile, that's where it's a quick something, got to check something. If I've ever been marketed to via mobile on Facebook, I've never noticed. I'm pretty good at ignoring it on the website as well. But at least on the website, I might be in Facebook 15, 20 minutes, half an hour at a time, just clicking around, and there's all sorts of information, in little areas that I might be even subconsciously absorbing. But it just remains to be seen how Facebook is going to figure this out. And it's not just Facebook. People are asking the same thing of Twitter. If you use a third-party app, I use TweetBot. I don't see any inline ads. That's just sort of one of the nice things about TweetBot. Is it always going to be that way? I don't know. Maybe Twitter will force companies that use their API to start showing the same kind of ads that you would see in the native Twitter app. I'm not sure, but Facebook has a little bit more writing on this because they made so much revenue last year, and they're expected to continue to not just match that revenue but grow it. They've got to figure out how to do that with all these people.
I wonder, though, if they may follow a model that seems to have worked for a lot of different applications, in that you pay if you want an ad-free experience, right? And not that I'm sure that everybody would pay for that ad-free experience. However, I know that mobile ads, most of the mobile ads that I've seen within any application are extremely annoying. I think even more so than your traditional banner on a website. So I feel like the mobile ad experience no one has perfected it. But I do think for a paid version, and that may be the only way that I could see people kind of accepting the ads or deciding that they don't want them at all. Again, I'm not sure if I would pay for the paid experience, but nonetheless, I think it's a tough sell right now. I've said this for the past probably 2 months on the Social Hour, where I kind of continue to worry about the fate of Facebook, and I see all of these other new services pop up, and Facebook just gets messier and clumsier as time goes on. So we'll see what happens, but I think nothing I've seen recently, I don't know about you, Sarah, has really wowed me, and I think, wow, that was a really smart, innovative thing that they've done. I haven't had that reaction.
What do you think about, there was an analyst, we talked about him on Tech News Today recently, who said I'm not going to try to directly quote him because it's not in front of me, but he said something along the lines of, Yahoo used to be a powerhouse too, and now Yahoo is often the butt of jokes. It's just not the company that it used to be as far as big, web portal that is on the up and up. Facebook right now is top dog. It replaced MySpace, but then again, MySpace replaced Friendster before it. Is the Facebook reign doomed to see the same fate as all other social or rather huge web portals have gone before it, because that's just the way things work?
Well, I think I just worry, again, when they come out with these new features, new functionality. I can't think of anything in recent months that I thought was all that impressive. So it's almost like they're throwing spaghetti at a wall. I know we've talked about this before. It's all of the hacker way, in terms of how they're doing things to see what kind of sticks. I think with MySpace, you saw towards the end of MySpace, I know they're still around, but towards the end in terms of us using it on a regular basis, is that they kind of did that too. They were redesigning, they were adding new features, they were trying to change the experience and sort of keep the service alive, but it never really necessarily worked. And I was talking to someone recently about Twitter, and I was saying what I think is great about Twitter is that Twitter has mostly remained the same since day one. They figured out what they did really well, and they've kind of stuck with it. And I think in some cases that works. With Facebook, again, I worry a little bit about that vision and where things are going. And they're going to get so big that I think it's going to be tough for them to have a really long-term success.
Well, this next story might freak you out a little bit. It certainly freaked me out. The leading German credit agency says they plan to mine Facebook and other social networking sites in search of information that could have a bearing on a person's creditworthiness. This is according to media reports. Now, this particular article, which does come from a German publication, says several leading politicians have criticized the plan. I don't blame them. Can you imagine, this is sort of in line with the idea of an employer saying, let's log into your Facebook account and let's see if anything's a little bit crazy here before a prospective employer, before we decide to hire you. I mean, somewhat ludicrous, right? And there was quite an uproar when we started hearing about instances where that was happening. Sometimes it was, in the government sector or the, police force type of a thing, but still seemed out of line. Can you imagine a credit agency trying to figure out if you are, I don't know, good for it, you have enough money, you're responsible, respectable kind of a person, based on silly photos that might be in your Facebook account or things you might have written on someone's wall that could be completely taken out of context? This frightens me to no end.
Yeah, I can't see how they would be able to determine if someone's credit rating wasn't going to be good based on some of this information when they mention things like the relationships and all of the other content that people are posting. I just don't see as direct of a tie with the individual and their financial history or experience as I would with, say, an employer wanting to look to just see what type of person that person may be. So I can't say, even if I think of all of my good friends on Facebook, if I look at what they're posting on Facebook and I try to determine their financial history and where they may be at and that type of information, it seems like a really far stretch. So it just seems like a total invasion of privacy. And hopefully this is not a trend that continues, because I don't think people are going to enjoy it, especially in Germany.
Exactly. I think even something as innocent as getting current address information, that sort of thing, would be something that a credit agency would want. And ideally, that sort of thing, if you were to, I guess, fill out your Facebook profile correctly, you could get. But even then, I don't want an organization like that using my Facebook for any type of what's Sarah's current phone number, address, likes and dislikes, what kind of car does she drive? None of that stuff. It
just makes you uncomfortable. I mean, and if we look at news, recent news, for example, like LinkedIn and passwords getting hacked, and we look at Facebook and privacy, I mean, there's a lot of incentive there for people to want to shy away from some of these networks, right? It feels as though in many cases, you're risking too much of your personal information. I don't know. I think Twitch should have a privacy show that they do just to talk about some of this stuff, because there's a lot to talk about, and people, I think, feel overwhelmingly comfortable maybe sharing too much of that personal information, and cases like this, I think, really highlight that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm trying to figure out what would I have to share on my Facebook profile in order for some sort of credit agency who is crawling my data to say, nope, she is not ready for this Capital One card. I don't know. What would it be? I just have no idea.
I guess if you talked a lot about shopping, things that you were buying, and you were going out and buying Louis Vuitton bags, and you were sharing that type of information. But I know, I mean, I have thousands of friends on Facebook, and I can't think of anyone in recent history who is sharing things that they're buying all the time. I mean, they're sharing articles and content and maybe things that they like and photos, but it is not so much about the purchasing process. Now, if you said maybe, 2 years down the road, Pinterest continues to grow and explode and turns into a real shopping experience, and then the credit agency wants to come to try to analyze the information about what you actually are buying, then who knows? Maybe that's a closer fit, but it's still a bit of a stretch.
Yes, I agree. So that rounds up, I think, pretty much everything that we're going to talk about that relates to Facebook, at least for this show. I'm not making any promises because news might break in the next half hour, but I think we're good. We've got a little bit of, Facebook App Center, a little bit of scary Facebook, because there's always that, and the idea that Facebook might not be able to make enough money to succeed over the next decade. It's the Facebook Roundup on the Social Hour. Speaking of the Social Hour, wanted to remind everybody that Amber and I are going to be changing the time of our show pretty soon. The week of July 9th. That's a Monday. Normally we would shoot a show on July 9th, but we are going to be moving to Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So our first show during the new time slot will be July 13th. That is a Friday. We're both very excited about this. We think that Friday afternoon is just kind of a little bit more the feel and I don't know, sassiness of the Social Hour. It just works better on Friday afternoons or early evenings in Amber's case. So we hope that that's a good time for all of you, and that you will join us at our new time if you like watching us live. But if you don't watch us live, you know where to go. TWiT.tv/TSH is our website. That's where all of our show archives live. That's where you can get subscription links so that you can subscribe to the show for free, of course, and never have to worry about what time do they shoot. All the shows just get delivered however you decide to organize them. And in every episode of our show, we talk about a lot of links and stories. We often have guests, and they've got their own websites. And you might be saying, I don't remember where some of these sites were. What did Amber talk about? And what was that red or fad? All the information is in every episode archive on our website. So if you're ever wondering what we talked about, you want to look back into any old shows, get video, the like, twit.tv/TSH is the place to go. And of course, you can email us at thesocialhour@twit.tv as well. Okay, we've got quite a bit more news. We've got some social tips. We've got, of course, Rad or Fad, because we'd never do a show without that. But first, never. First, we want to thank Audible for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. If you're an audiobook person, then there's no way you haven't heard of Audible, because it is the place to get the largest selection of audiobooks, over 100,000 titles. 100,000 titles. Think about that for a second. That's a very large library of all types of fiction, literature, nonfiction. If you're the kind of person who says, I don't want to read fiction, it never happened, I like to read the real stuff, then you've got options. What's nice, if you go to Audible and you just want to get a sense of all the stuff that they have on offer, they'll give you a really good breakdown. Speaking of a collection that they do a really good job of organizing, Audible does a great job. We've got new and notables. We've got books that are read by the author of the book. We've got the bestsellers, Game of Thrones, of course. It's going to be up there for a while. 50 Shades of Grey. I have not had that read to me, but hey.
I've heard a lot about that.
Sure, yeah. This is the book that everyone's buying on Kindles because they're embarrassed. They don't want anyone to see them reading it anywhere. But on a Kindle, you don't know. It's even better if you're commuting in your car. Why not just have 50 Shades of Grey read to you while you are, you don't have to answer to anybody. In fact, maybe I'll do that because I'm somewhat curious about what all the hoopla is about. supposed to be a racy book of some kind. You know,
yes,
they act like nobody's ever read romance novels before. I mean, how bad can it be? I went through all of this in high school. Anyway, 50 Shades of Grey is only one of the many, many, many titles that you can get at Audible. Now I have to do it because I'm laughing about it and I'm very curious. What's neat about Audible is I mentioned commuting in my car. I do that a lot, and chances are you do too. Can't read a book while you're driving, but I've got to drive. Why not use the 2 hours that I spend in my car commuting, absorbing either fiction or nonfiction information? It's great. It's a great way for people who are really busy, love the idea of reading, wish they read more, and have realized that they haven't finished a book in months, maybe even years, to feel like you're back in the saddle. You're reading a lot because it's the same thing. It's just that it's being read to you. And it's kind of fun because you can do other stuff at the same time.
I was just going to say, this is really cool, Sarah. I didn't realize they always have new titles, right? And just even read by the author. Is this the gardening book, The Story of the White House Kitchen Garden and Gardens Across America, in read by the author by Michelle Obama? Is that actually read by her? I'm guessing that's what that means, but that would be fun to listen to. And then there's a Joan Rivers book right beside it, which I imagine is very different.
Yes, I assume so. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this book. Michelle Obama wrote a book about gardening. Well,
I didn't realize
she can do it all, I guess.
American Grown. So if you want kind of a racy woman, maybe go Joan Rivers. If you want something a little more classic and classy in some ways, I would go Michelle Obama.
I love the fact that the two are next to each other.
I know.
We've got American Grown, The Story of the White House Kitchen Garden and Gardens Across America by Michelle Obama, followed by I Hate Everyone, starting with me, Joan Rivers. Oh, Joan.
They both sound good, though.
But there you go. Yeah, that's a very good example of two nonfiction, supposedly, books that are in the Audible database that you can listen to. Now, why are we talking about Audible? Because we have an offer for you. audiblepodcast.com/social hour is the code to use to get a free book. So if you're interested in gardening, maybe you want that Michelle Obama book. Maybe you just want to laugh. I assume Joan Rivers would make you laugh, like that sort of thing. Those are just two options. Or 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not going to, I won't judge.
We're not judging over here, basically.
We would never
on the
judge.
Social Hour.
We would never judge. It's all about what you want, right? That's why they have so many titles, because we have different wants and needs, and we think different things are funny or interesting. audiblepodcast.com/social hour. Get a free book, download it, listen to it. Let us know if you like the audiobook experience. It's really great. It's a great way to feel like you are reading regularly. Even if you do read regularly, even if you're, I don't know, some sort of a superhuman who has enough time to be reading books for hours a day, you still get something out of having a book read to you. Your imagination works differently. Give it a try, and we thank Audible so much for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. All right, moving on to, let's take it to Twitter. Let's fly over to Twitter. Amber, have you seen the new Twitter bird? Lost some weight.
Yeah, the Twitter bird. The Twitter bird is looking much more sleek, much more upbeat. Could I say that, maybe?
Yes.
And soaring to new heights is probably the best way I could describe it in the image that you see on Twitter's blog, in terms of Twitter bird being basically the new logo, if I understand it, for Twitter, because Twitter, the bird is Twitter, and Twitter is the bird. This is based on the blog post.
Yes, that's right. So when I first looked at the new, you can see this nice little animation that Twitter put together for anyone who's watching the video version of this. When I first looked at it, I thought, well, that looks like the... I don't see what the difference is. When you actually put the new bird next to the old bird is fatter. The old bird has a little feathery kind of thing going on, and was sort of looking straight across. New bird is thinner, nice, sleek top, and flying upward, which I guess is one of those things that maybe you and I don't even realize, but make us feel more, I don't know, positive and inspired. These are the sorts of things that I think sales and marketing people probably talk for many, many hours and weeks about.
I bet a lot of money went into this bird, Sarah. That's all I can expect. That the marketing agency who took on this task of redesigning the Twitter bird spent a lot of time thinking about the angle that this bird would be facing.
Yeah, it's.
I put money on that.
Do you? Yes,
Yep.
I think you're right. Now, the fail whale, which is something that we see a lot less of these days, but everybody knows the Twitter fail whale, doesn't seem to have gotten an update. Also, probably by design. Why would they try to bring attention to something that is representing the network not working, even though the fail whale is sort of beloved, especially by people who used Twitter back in the day when you saw it all the time. Unfortunately, no updated fail whale that's pointing skyward, being held up by very inspirational balloons or...
You know what, though? Now that I think about it, because I actually have a copy of Bloomberg Magazine upstairs, and the Twitter bird is all over the cover, and just the context is different based on the different design of the bird. But I think Twitter is one of the few social networks that I can think of that has such strong visual branding. I mean, with Facebook, I don't know, aside from the name, there's not something I associate with Facebook. But I think they're right. You know, they've done a good job of you just see the bird, you know, it is Twitter. I can't think of another example of a social network that's done that.
It seems like some of the big brands, this is usually what happens is there's some sort of very iconic logo. And, everyone knows what it is. You know, the little lowercase t, it's like, that's Twitter for sure. And a lot of third-party apps still use that as, you know, if you log in through Twitter, send something to Twitter and this and that. But the bigger that brands get, they always get sleeker. You know, look at Starbucks branding, for example. It's like, it just gets more simplified over time, maybe because they know that most of the logo is already in your brain, so they can sort of pull things out of it. So it looks more modern, but it still retains that information that you need for brand awareness. It's all very fascinating. And of course, I don't really know what I'm talking about because I don't do branding stuff, but
that's okay. That's a good thing, Sarah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Don't think too hard about it. Your head might explode.
Yeah. So the Twitter bird is looking very svelte. He's gotten a nice haircut and he's reaching for the stars. You can see the lower right-hand corner there. That's the old bird. The old bird was cute too. Hey.
He was cuter, I think.
Yeah.
A little pudge around him. Much cuter.
It's sort of like a Hollywood actress, you know? Like, she does this it's like the Lindsay Lohan of Twitter birds, you know? She was kind of cuter when she was in high school and she was doing those cute movies, and now, well, that's really... No, I don't think Twitter wants me to say that that's the comparison that I'm making. Sorry, Twitter bird, you're not anything like her. All right, let's move on to our social tip. It's a PSA, in fact.
Yes, this is more of a PSA. I stumbled across this on YouTube, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there, and I have to say I have done this before, where you are taking video with your smartphone, whether you have an iPhone, an Android phone, and you are shooting video vertically. So instead of turning your phone, and so it's horizontal, and you have a nice widescreen video, you're shooting in a vertical manner. Well, it turns out there is now a PSA to get people to stop doing this, and it's pretty funny.
This video didn't have to look this way. It could have been prevented. Say no to vertical videos.
Vertical videos happen when you hold your camera the wrong way. Your video will end up looking like crap.
There are more and more people addicted to making vertical videos every day. It's not crack or nothing, but it's still really bad. There are two different kinds of people who are afflicted with VVS. The first group treats the videos they shoot like pictures. They don't mean any harm. They just don't understand that while you can turn a picture, you can't really turn a video.
The other group is people who don't give a
Vertical video syndrome is dangerous. Motion pictures have always been horizontal. Televisions are horizontal. Computer screens are horizontal. People's eyes are horizontal. We aren't built to watch vertical videos. I love vertical videos!
Nobody cares about you.
If this problem's left unchecked, YouTube will begin showing 4 videos at once, just to save bandwidth.
Letterboxed vertical videos would be the size of a postage stamp.
And it will spread everywhere. Movie screens have always been horizontal.
All right, I think we've seen enough.
Become accepted.
Now, I have to admit that I do this all the time. Where's my phone? Oh, it's over there. Because it's true. It's like I read... So with an iPad, it's never a problem. But with your any phone. I know that this is, I just happen to use an iPhone, so that's the example I'm using. That's how I'm reading everything. I mean, I'm almost never using my phone horizontally for anything unless maybe I'm like laying down on the couch reading email and it auto rotates.
I know.
Many apps don't work in horizontal mode. So and I don't take a lot of videos with my phone, but when I do, I almost always take it vertically, and then I look at it later and go, oh, shoot, I forgot again.
I know. So this is a great PSA to advise people who do this. Like I said, I've done it before. I've also been yelled at for doing it because I realized that it's not the smartest thing to do, but naturally you just want to go vertical. So hopefully this message, this PSA, will help people turn their smartphones horizontally so you can shoot horizontal video, and then people will be much happier. But a fun little video that those guys put out, whoever they are.
Whoever they are, those Muppets. You can always use it. Everything's better with Muppets. It's like, this would have been sort of like patronizing, I think, if actual humans would have recorded the video. It would have been like, okay. But there's something about Muppets that it just makes it funny. Maybe
Muppets are harmless.
Maybe I can request something to Tim Cook for iOS 6 for all the iPhone users. So when you're about to record a video vertically, you'll get some sort of a dialog box saying, are you sure you want to screw this video up completely? Yes or no?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, go ahead. We won't stop you.
Or maybe it should be built into apps, especially if the apps that you're using to shoot video. But yeah, they would be able to do that, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
We need that. We need warning messages, basically.
Warning, you're about to make a terrible video. You don't really want to do this, do you? Do you have a good reason? We need to see your reason. So Spotlight this week is a service that, how did I even find this? I think I actually saw it shared on my Facebook news feed, which it seems like it would have been shared via Twitter, but it's called Unroll Me. The website is unroll.me. What's neat about it is that what you do is you select your email provider. Pretty much right now, you've got Gmail or Google Apps, if you use Google Apps to access a different server, or Yahoo Mail. And the idea is that once you connect Unroll Me to one of these accounts, and you can do it for multiple accounts as well, it will scan basically your inbox, your archive, if you have a lot of stuff archived, and will access the data and be able to tell, which of these messages are email subscriptions that you're getting on a regular basis. Maybe you're subscribed to a weekly email. Sprouter is one of the weekly email digests that I look forward to each week because they always have really good information about new startups, and it helps me for this show. That's one of the many email subscription services that I get each week, but I get a lot of others that, for whatever reason, I haven't unsubscribed from, or I like, but they kind of get lost in the clutter of all of my other email. What Unroll will do is it'll say, okay, here's the 10 senders that I've identified as a subscription email. Do you still want them? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, it's a great time to say, no, check mark, just get rid of those. Unsubscribe me from these. Or you might say, no, I still like them, but I'd like them to kind of go into their own category. Make me a folder that my email subscriptions go into so they don't just end up as emails, because you're not really going to respond to them. It's a whole different action item than an email that somebody sends you that's more of a one-on-one conversation. And that way, you can go in and access them when you feel like it, when you have time, when you're ready to read a bunch of stuff that, an email digest that you subscribe to is there for. You know what? I also have, I've been trying to unsubscribe to all the daily deals sites, Amber, that are just, they're as fun as they are. It's just too much of them. But I still really like my Living Social weekly digest. You can get like a daily one or a weekly one. I've chosen to go weekly. And there's also another service called Scout Mob, which has some great deals in San Francisco that often apply to me. So I like those to be just in their little area. So what Unroll.me does is it just is sort of a one-click. I don't really have to do much in order to put them in their own folder, and just kind of cleans up my inbox, which is always a good thing.
Very cool. I definitely need this because I used to use Unsubscribe. I don't use it as much anymore, but I think it's because perhaps they charge for it now. But I think Unroll Me, I would definitely be able to take advantage of this because, like you, Sarah, I constantly have so many subscriptions that I would like to eliminate from my email altogether. Now, if only they had something for PR pitches that they could get rid of, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I want some of them, I guess, from people that I know, but the news releases, it's just, that's like 25% of my email right now, and it's out of control.
Mine too. I find that it's like if you ever go to Comic-Con, if you ever go to CES, if you've ever participated in Blog World, our digital experience, or, it's like there are certain, Macworld is another one, there are certain sort of trade shows and conferences which are great. But when you get on this sort of master list, then your email address gets shared with all sorts of other companies, and often they just don't apply. It's like, I don't mind tech pitches. I don't necessarily want to read 50 of them in a week, but there are some, like, I get these very bizarre pitches from, it's like Hollywood stuff, but it doesn't, it wouldn't apply to any show on TWiT, even if I tried to stretch it and make it apply. It's very random. And no amount of me clicking on spam makes these go away. Because
I know,
at least for Gmail works collectively, right? So it's like you and me and maybe a few other people would have to start identifying these incoming messages as spam, and then the service starts just filtering them to spam. But if not enough people are doing that, then they just keep coming.
It's a nightmare. I'm actually, later this afternoon, I'm going to be starting to write an article for Fast Company about this exact issue in terms of PR pitches and how I think with a lot of PR people, they have an amazing opportunity to, through social, find out about a certain person that they're sending a pitch to and really customize it and say, hey, you know what, this would be really great for the social hour. Or I guess I do about 3 or 4 shows right now, kind of pick the show that they're trying to target instead of these mass emails that are totally irrelevant. I posted on Facebook recently about a big PR agency that had sent me a pitch, and literally the beginning of the pitch was like this: Dear Amber, are you struggling to manage your technology? Are you having a hard time programming your microwave timer? It's just insulting, right?
Yeah. Really? Microwave timer? That's maybe the easiest part of a microwave. But we digress.
I know. Exactly. Anyway,
it's better than the pitch that I got once. I think I've talked about it before, but it was so bad it bears repeating. That was, hello, Sarah. We want to pitch you this thing because we love your work on insert name of company and nice anecdote about company. That's what it said. In brackets.
I love
the person had forgotten to take out the brackets and take out the boilerplate stuff and actually put something that applied to me. I was very nice. About it. I could have been very rude and somehow felt vindicated or something, but those sorts of things do happen, and that's why people make fun of PR pitches. They're not all bad. Anyway, we did get an email from Eric Pitcher. This email is actually a couple weeks old. We were going to talk about it in our last show, but we ran out of time, so we're going to talk about it today. He says, hey guys, I figured you'd be interested in showing off a new social web app called Plug.dj. It's essentially turntable.fm, but with YouTube videos instead of MP3s. The layout is pretty much a direct clone of Turntable, but it offers a lot more in the way of entertainment, in my humble opinion. Any embeddable YouTube video is open to be added to a playlist, so occasionally you'll see rooms sharing short films or TV shows. Again, it's YouTube. That being said, most rooms are still centered around playing dubstep. Thought I'd pass it along to you guys because I love to see the user base explode after being featured on your show. Well, thank you, Eric, for believing that we have millions of legions of fans watching the social hour. I like to think that too. So these are a variety of rooms. Jason, if you just click into one of these rooms, sure, why not? The Groovy Club sounds pretty good. It's true. It looks a lot like Turntable, which is the idea that you can, from your desktop, be a DJ and be playing for a variety of other people in a room. A virtual room, of course. It's basically just some sort of a permalink within the system to play certain songs. Well, the way the Turntable works is it's pulling from your music library that you've got stored locally or somehow can access in the cloud. And I guess the big difference between turntable and Plug.dj, because it really is a clone. I mean, you got somebody who looks like an animal behind the turntable. I mean, it's basically the same thing, is that you're, instead of your own library, pulling from YouTube, which is kind of neat because not only do you have something visual, this isn't a very visual YouTube video, but it's definitely a video of, I don't know what that is really. So that was some sort of a video of tracers.
Something.
Yeah. But that you don't have to worry so much about what you have in your own library. And there are a lot of music videos and things like that on YouTube that you can pull from. I guess as long as it's embeddable, then you can play it.
Very cool. Looks really neat, actually. Thank you so much, Eric. All right, Sarah. Every so often I change the name of a different section that we have been talking about, like Tweet of the Week. I recently changed it to Pinterest Clone of the Week because every time I turn around, there's a Pinterest clone. We've talked about quite a few on the show, everything from, I think, Gentlemint, which is like Pinterest for manly things, and there's a geek version of a Pinterest clone, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Well, there's a new one this week that is getting some attention online. It's called Open Sky, and this is like Pinterest for shopping. So when they say it's a Pinterest clone, really that just means that they've taken the Pinterest layout and kind of copied some ideas from that layout. Open Sky is a little bit different in that there's also a bunch of celebrities endorsing this particular service. It's a place where you can go and you can input all of your different preferences, and then it kind of spits out recommendations of things that you may want to buy. So I actually signed in with Facebook and went through the process of getting some of those recommendations. Kind of a neat, easy, upfront system in terms of getting into Open Sky. I haven't actually bought anything. I'm not sure if it's good or not, but just so people know, the Pinterest clones continue. Yeah, they sure do. And that's another thing that you keep hearing about Pinterest is, well, it's really just a way to display things that you think are cool. But more and more, it's, well, wouldn't it be nice whenever Amber shares anything on Pinterest, if it's something that's buyable, then I click through and I'm able to buy it. You can do that. It just depends on where the source is. It's like if I pin something from Amazon, you could then click through and buy that something on Amazon. But it's not necessarily set up that way. No. I have to say, too, Sarah, I don't know if I mentioned, but I actually started using Pinterest. I know I haven't really been, I hadn't used it for many months since it first came out, but I started using it and experimenting with it a little bit. So I started a Pinterest page where I have pictures from speaking events that I've done. I'm just trying to think of a neat way to be able to showcase some of that stuff. Oh, that's cool. And it's been fun. Yeah, it's so easy. I see why so many people love it. It's so easy just to be able to share images. I mean, it's easier than Twitter, and that's pretty easy. But just the process of sharing pictures is a cinch. So it's been kind of fun. I'm not as active as a user as some people, but experimenting. It's funny. I think the two of us have kind of changed our behaviors a little bit as far as Pinterest goes, because a month ago we were both saying, I mean, we know Pinterest is a big deal, but we just don't really use it that often. And I've found that I've been using it casually as well. There are certain things that I'll say, this is neat. All right, where am I going to save this? And it's like, it's not really a read later type of a thing. It's not really an Instapaper save. Sure. I don't really want to email the page to myself because that's not the right way to do it. And it works really good on Pinterest. There was I found this is so Pinterest. I found like an outdoor rug that, it's like, it's good for all weather. You can rain on it and it's never going to get moldy or whatever thing. It was really cheap. And I'm like, for $40, that is a pretty nice looking rug. Perfect for Pinterest because it was very visual, and I saved a nice little JPEG of the rug. And it's like, I don't care if anyone else sees that. Maybe they'll want that rug too. So it worked out well. Then again, that is Pinterest. So if I was to share this on Open Sky, maybe it would be a little bit more of a direct, here, this is a portal to a marketplace where you can buy things. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good to know that we're experimenting, Sarah. We haven't taken a huge dive in, but at least we're playing around a little bit. We are. We can't ignore Pinterest forever. We've been sucked in. It's just so easy, like you said. Are you just at Sarah Lane on Pinterest, or /Sarah Lane, I should say? I think I'm Sarah Lane Rocks. Yeah, I am. I'm Sarah Lane Rocks because there's another Sarah Lane on Pinterest. I think I know who it is. I think I know. I couldn't get Amber Mac either. I had to do Amber MacArthur, but cool. All right. Well, at least that's your name. Sarah Lane Rocks is a little bit silly, but anyone who
spends any time in chat knows that that's my TWiT moniker, so it's okay. It's always my second choice.
Based on your profile on Pinterest, we know you don't like silly, right, Sarah?
That's right. Yeah. Nothing, no laughter and no fun. That's the way I like things. Just keep it somber. That's the way to get through life. So we want to hear from you. This is the part of the show where I remind you that there are a variety of ways you can get a hold of us. thesocialhour@twit.tv is our email address. Thank you to everybody who emails us questions, comments, really cool site ideas, social network commentary, sometimes even videos. Videos are great if you're feeling brave and you want to record something, or record yourself. I don't know, giving us any kind of feedback, 30 seconds or less, send us the link to where it lives online. You can also leave us a voicemail. Sometimes voicemails are few and far between on the show because we get a lot of emails from people saying, well, I really want to, my voice, that sort of thing. I know it can seem daunting, but it's really easy. And no one will pick up the phone, I promise. It's just a voicemail inbox. So you can call us and leave us a message at 2626 SOCIAL. That's 2626 social to leave us a message. Thank you in advance. But now, without further ado, is Amber's Rad or Fad.
Rad or fad. Okay, so Sarah, we have talked before about Airtime. A few months ago when there was talk about Airtime launching, this of course is from Sean Parker and Sean Fanning. Many people have described it kind of like chat roulette, except that you're meeting just with your friends based on your social graph within Facebook, for example. I signed up for Airtime earlier today. I thought it was a great option for Rad or Fad because people have been talking about it. I know at their launch they had I think Jim Carrey was there. There was some technical problems that they had, but I've been hearing more and more about it. Now, when I signed up and I got to the portion where I had to turn on my web camera and then I saw all the people on the right-hand side who I could potentially talk to, I then left because I thought, I don't know if I want to have a video chat with any of these people right now. And that was my experience. So I don't know what you think of the service, Sarah, but I'm not quite sold.
Well, Amber, I think that you are a little bit more conservative than I am when it comes to privacy online, which is a good thing. I, however, don't care. Look at my credit card statements. I have got nothing to hide. No, I'm just kidding. But Airtime, like you, I was very excited to actually see the darn thing launch. And it was interesting to see who of my Facebook network, because you have to log in via Facebook, which turns some people off, but that is, they've decided Facebook is the largest social graph that we have. That's the service that we're going to use because that's where the infrastructure is, at least right now. I mean, that is the worldwide social graph as it stands right now. Is the biggest one is through Facebook. So once you log in through Facebook, it's kind of neat. Even if you're anonymous, you can choose to share your name or not. You can choose to just connect with people who might also be on Airtime that are already your Facebook friends, presumably people you know or have met. Or you can choose to meet people who are friends of friends. So at least you've got that one person in common. Maybe it's just like, oh, you know John. Cool. Okay, well, how do you know him? And a little bit of a conversation type thing. And again, you're not looking at them across the table at a cafe or anything. So maybe for people who are a little bit shy, this has some allure. So the other day when Airtime launched, I think it was Wednesday, or I don't know, it was a few days ago, I went ahead and didn't really read any of that stuff very closely. I just said, and I had just woken up. I mean, I looked like Medusa. It was not cute. I mean, it was so much worse than this. And I went ahead and connected, and the guy pops up, and he knew me. He goes, wait a second, I know you. Don't you work at TWiT? And I was like, yeah. I quickly, put my cat in front of my face. I'm like, here, Lucy, look at my, I don't know you. But it turns out that we knew somebody in common. He also lived in San Francisco, miraculously, and he seemed like a really nice guy. We talked for a few minutes. So it was a really weird experience, and I was mortified, but at the same time, it was kind of cool. It wasn't some random person, with a shirt off or anything like that. And by the way, there will be comparisons made to chat roulette just because it's a little bit of a who is going to be, in the video window that pops up. But that's really where the similarities end. This is designated to be more of like a real video chat technology where you can connect with friends. You can connect with coworkers. You can, once you're in the middle of a video chat, you can share links and videos and that sort of thing. It's not just a random see some, guy from Russia who might be acting inappropriately and laugh and sign off type of a thing. It's sort of like it's making chat roulette less of a joke and more actually a utility. So it's neat. But you do have to have a sense of bravery, I think, because there is a little bit of that element of surprise. So at this point, we have to figure out if it's rad or fad. I have to say, even though I just talked it up like it's the second coming, I still think it's a fad. This is the sort of thing I just won't use. I know myself. It's a novelty. It was fun to meet Josh. That was a guy I talked to the other day while I was in my pajamas. But now I know how it works, and I don't feel like I need to use it anymore.
I know. I have to say, I would put it in the category of fad, too. And I think maybe it's something a certain generation may like. And I'm just thinking of a younger generation, maybe people in their early 20s would think this is kind of cool. I have a hard enough time keeping up with my regular friends who I see in real life. So I'm not sure if I just want to randomly strike up conversations with people in my social graph. Even though, like you said, you may know some of the people or you're connected based on interests. There's a lot of other things that I would just rather be doing. So I'm not a huge fan of Airtime so far, but I guess it's kind of neat. But I still think it's a fad.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's very, you can't deny that it's cool. It's like, that's a cool idea. Look, they've really put a lot of work into this. It works. It looks nice. It's interesting. It's like there's all of that stuff. Yet, if you don't fulfill a need that people have, I just don't see them coming back. And that's why we get so many of these services that there's nothing wrong with, but they are fads because they're cool for a while. Turntable FM is another example. I mean, we were just talking about this Plug.dj. We haven't talked about Turntable in a while because it's the sort of thing that was fun for a month and people move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like something like this may be cool in the online dating world too, right? If you could imagine this technology built into an online dating service, and perhaps you could have a quick video chat with people. I'm not sure if you would want to do that, but nonetheless, I just don't see it really taking off. Especially because with chat roulette, I think, even though this is very different, it was very, very new and it got lots of buzz. But I think being able to video chat with people now, there's lots of other tools that you can use to do this that, it doesn't make this one that much different.
All right. I guess we've both agreed that it's a fad. Sorry, Sean Parker and Sean Fanning. You're just fads to us.
You can come on the show and defend it if you want.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
They don't. I'm sure they're not inundated with media requests or anything. They've got time.
They have time.
They are based in San Francisco, so they don't really have much of an excuse. We're the local media, man.
Yeah, real.
Exactly. Airtime, we love you. Please be on our show. All right, that's it for this episode of The Social Hour. We've come to the end of our hour. Hopefully you guys all got a lot of good social news, a few tips, some neat services to try out. Please do play around with them. Report back to us. We'll have another show for you next week. I'm not going to tell you when it's going to be because I can't even remember when we're shooting our next show. I think it's actually, Amber, we're going to do for all of our live viewers next Friday, a week from today, 2 shows back to back. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And if you get confused, the best thing to do is just to subscribe to the show so that you'll always get it every single week and you won't have to worry about any of the weird scheduling for the next few weeks.
Yes, exactly. I will remind you one more time really quick that starting the week of July 9th, Amber and I are going to move our time of the Social Hour, the live recording, from Mondays to Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're very excited about it. We think it's a great time slot, and we hope that you'll join us if you like watching the live version of the show. For everybody else, thank you so much for subscribing, for watching, for listening to our audio feed, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.